controversy over where Representative John Thompson resides, in combination with the process of redrawing legislative districts statewide, prompted the Senate State Government and Elections Committee to hold an informational hearing last week. Joining me in the studio is the chair of that committee, Senator Mary Kiffmeyer. Welcome.
Glad to be with you.
The informational hearing last week covered both residency law and the candidate filing process. The last update to election law, the big one, was in 2010, and integrity, both in the election process and among candidates, is frequently talked about. Is it time to revisit some areas of election law, in particular in these areas?
I think in the area of affidavit of a candidacy, residency really matters. Residency matters when you vote. You have to be a resident of the precinct to get a ballot in that precinct. So also in a district, a legislator should be able to prove that they're a resident of that particular legislative district. The voters should know that, and the system should implement that. And so I think right now we've seen that checkoff box where you show no proof of the police report, no proof of an order of protection, they just check it, and it's really pretty loose. And with redistricting next year, which is a year anyway where residency laws are a big deal, and proving that you live there can become a court case, and almost always is. This is the time to pay attention to it and maybe tighten things up a bit so that we avoid the court if at all possible.
Right, so in 2010, part of the law change required that the candidate list an address, unless, as you mentioned, there's an order of protection or a police report that means that the person does not want their address known, because basically we've been operating on a kind of honor system, and each candidate just checks a box that, an affidavit, I verify that this is true. So do we need a system to verify, and is that even possible? I mean, there are a lot of elected officials across the state.
Well, that's why I held the hearing, was to say what feasibility, what area, what should we do? But fundamentally, the candidate is responsible for their residence and proving it. The problem is there's no verification of that right now because of the checkbox. So either we need to make it meaningful, they attach a protection order or a police report to their filing, and then the Secretary of State has to verify that the actual address. But to tell the truth, you're a public elected official. You are public, and anybody can figure out where you live, especially in this day and age. So I don't know if it's outlived its usefulness. The other thing is we changed the election law this year that any candidate can take $3,000 over a 2-year period and use it for security, such as Ring or whatever system you want to choose to help ensure the protection of your home. That's really important. I think when we've done that, then I think the actual validity of this has probably outlived its usefulness. And I think that's a really important consideration to the voters. This is about the voters and making sure that they're electing someone who actually lives in their district. They deserve to know that.
It occurred to me that some of this could just be a side effect of a growing population. I grew up in a small town, and frankly, we knew where everybody lived, right? But in big cities, big urban areas, unfortunately, we often don't even know our neighbors, let alone where our elected officials live. But could this process of verification, how do we make sure that it's verifying but not unduly intrusive for a candidate who, candidates are not yet elected. They are just simply candidates.
Yeah, and because they put down an address, even with a protection order or police report, even if they put that down and that address is in the precinct, the question is, do they actually live there? That's the hearing that I had, which is on the residency law. What does it take to say this is your residence? Again, legendary court cases, candidates taken off the ballot because of that through a court action. That is really where some of those things should happen. But the bigger thing is at the inception, when you fill out your affidavit of candidacy, my belief is every candidate should fully and transparently and honestly put down their residence, where they live, and fulfillment and requirements of the Minnesota state law. And I think that is in the best interest of voters, and that at least simplifies things, makes that part of it up front. Now, there still can be questions in regards to, do you actually live there, which is why 2 candidates in the past were taken off the ballot, because there was a lot of investigation by the opposition party and questioned it, took it to the court, and they were taken off the ballot. So first of all, candidate, be honest and transparent, fulfill the requirement. You are a resident. And the other thing is showing proof maybe through a copy of their driver's license, which if that were given with their filing, that might help to enhance that sort of thing. But we'll be holding a hearing next February, but because it's a short session and we have redistricting right away, I felt candidates really needed to know up front the situation of residency.
One other thing I wanted to touch on, it's sort of the other side of the coin, because politics are very polarized right now. And conceivably, there is greater danger for both candidates and elected officials. One of the changes in 2010 was that requirement to publish candidates' addresses. But where is the line between privacy and public data? I know you mentioned technology, we can figure out where people live, but is there a security concern?
Well, that's why we did the money, which enabled them to take out other campaign funds instead of personal funds, campaign funds that they can use for that purpose under guidelines and other things, and a lot of it at their discretion for what they do with that. And I think that has already addressed what you can reasonably do, reminding ourselves they're a public official nonetheless. So if you step up and say, I want to be a public official, part of that is residency and where you live, such that all the voters in your district can know that transparently.
You've been a lawmaker for more than a decade, and this will be the second time that you go through the redistricting process. I looked on a map, and it looks to me like you're pretty squarely within your district, so I can't imagine that it causes you any stress or late night worry about it changing. But
I have a story for that.
You have a story for that. But you talk to your colleagues, and this, I think, can be a stressful time. How do lawmakers feel about the idea that, you know, the people they have been representing may not be their people anymore, or they, you know, it's shifting, and can you talk a little bit about that?
That is very hard on people. This whole thing of every 10 years, what? I just got used to them. I just figured out who they are, figured out how to contact them, and now you're changing that. Well, it's the Constitution. Every 10 years we count, so you get fair representation. That lines change, and matter of fact, sometimes, remember, who you vote for changes anyway. They aren't permanent, so they're going to resign or leave for other reasons. But redistricting is a fairly substantial shakeup. That is really, really hard for people. And I think that the issue of residency and being transparent, that's going to really help people, but also getting the information out right away. But generally that does pretty well. But people then tend to not think about it till they go vote. And then they do that. It's just the nature of that. And it is a challenging and difficult time. My sympathy to everybody. But it is really important. So in my district right now, because of the increase in population, my geography is going to get smaller. That means I'm going to lose some people that have been used to me representing them. That's hard for me. I like them. I enjoy them. But it's going to be change, and they're going to have change because of that as well. Now, in the northwest corner, southeast, southwest, the corners of Minnesota, which are buffered by North Dakota and Canada, etc., they're going to increase probably in geography. And so that's going to be change there. Pretty much any district in the state of Minnesota is going to see change. It's just the nature of things every 10 years, and my sympathy to you. The big thing is grab hold of it, understand it's coming, understand it's really in your best interest as voters so that you have as close as possible equal representation. So I used to have a certain number of voters. Now geography changes, just the nature of redistricting. It's for your good for Minnesota, sorry.
Change is coming, as you said. Senator Mary Kiffmeyer, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Good to be with you.